Okay, I have found what looks to be an incredible extortion racket, a protection scheme which is extracting money from the Gulf Coast states in exchange for protection from devastating hurricanes. And this is being run through the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and I'm going to show all this detail here in a moment. First, let me zoom in on this. This is yesterday, October 8th, and what we can see here is basically Haarp downburst occurring here. Here you see a thunderstorm trying to bubble up, and immediately there's a expanding ring of dry air that comes down on top of the storm, and the storm is gone. Similarly, right here, here's a giant oval, and then here's an expanding ring also. That should be real clear to see that. And the reason that that's being done right there is that the Gulf Coast is extremely warm, and any thunderstorm that builds up in those locations is going to build up to be a tropical depression, then a tropical storm, then a hurricane. And the reason they're doing it right there is because of the jet stream. Right here we see that in this area here there's no jet stream. The winds high up are dead calm, and right over here also dead calm winds. So if you're going to have a hurricane crop up, it's going to be in this area here, right where we saw those downbursts happening. So we can also go back and see different views of it, different times. But you can see these storms pop up and then they're smashed back down. This has been going on basically all summer. Now this is a really nice view here, because we can see the storm trying to build up, and then these expanding bubbles of dry air, and the roll cloud causes additional clouds on the perimeter, and up here also we see. So this is what's stopped the hurricanes from building. Now let me show you the actual evidence for a racketeering scheme. First we're going to look at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and they trade in weather futures, weather options, and they actually have a hurricane product where a city, a coastal city, or an entire area can band together and say, all right, we're going to pay, maybe 10 cents on the dollar, and if we get hit by a hurricane, we get a whole dollar back for our 10 cents. So what this looks like, let me pull up this spreadsheet. Now this is the position accountability limit spreadsheet, which you can download from CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And what we're looking for here is, here's an interesting thing. The Japanese do buy, here's 2,500 is the accountability limit. That's how much one customer is limited to owning that many shares. And this is seasonal index futures for Hiroshima, Osaka. So the interesting thing here is Japan only is allowed 2,500 of these options. But if we go look at the Gulf Coast areas, what we find is the Gulf Coast is able to purchase 100,000 shares, and that's $20 per contract. So that would pay off $2 million each. And again, this is not the total market. This is how much one customer is permitted to own, unless you're hiding your identity through different brokerages. So that's a $2 million payoff. And again, to buy that option is going to be 10% or so. We really don't know. Anyway, this is Hurricane Index second event. So this is supplemental for Gulf Coast, Florida, South Atlantic Coast, Northern Atlantic, Florida, North-South, Eastern Gulf, Florida, Gold Coast. Okay, so that's actually the secondary insurance. Let's find the primary coverage. Now here's another block of 100,000 shares. And this goes back to Hurricane Index, seasonal futures, Gulf, Florida, Florida Gulf Coast, North Atlantic, seasonal max futures. So this is a market where what's happening is the cities, say New Orleans, is going to say, you know, we cannot take a real strike, we don't have the money, so we're going to buy a futures contract that if we get hit, we will get a payoff. And so we're going to pay somebody maybe 10%, and the CME is not the partner in this deal. They are just the referee. They are just where the contract is signed and enforced. Okay? There's somebody out there who has an inkling that there will not be any hurricanes for these areas here, and they will be the counterparty to this deal, to this futures contract. Now, who, after Katrina in 2005, who in their right mind would want to take on a risk like that? That takes us right back to the Haarp operators, because they know there will not be any Gulf Coast hurricanes as long as their transmitters remain up and special forces don't storm in and take over the facilities. So this is a protection racket. They're extracting millions of dollars from these coastal cities every hurricane season, and the payoff is either monthly or daily, depending on the contract. And this looks extremely likely to me. And this explains why we have not had any major hurricanes since Katrina in 2005. Unbelievable. And this water is incredibly warm. If we look at, here's Katrina in 2005. Now it was, you can see, it's just really bright red, and just go off centigrade here. It looks like it's about 30. Well, you know, Katrina formed here, where it's relatively cool, and immediately went to Category 1, and here's Category 2. Category 2 looks like about 30, well, 30 and a half. Okay, so 30 and a half centigrade. So if we look at the current temperature map here for the Gulf, I got to make it a little smaller here so we can see the temperature scale. Hope you can see that. It's kind of blurry. This is 29, so here's going to be about 30 and a half. The entire Gulf of Mexico is 30 and a half. So any storm that forms here, especially where the jet stream is weak here and over this area, this entire area, there's no jet stream. Anything that forms here, this is like 31. You get not only Category 1, you get Category 3 right here. So it's very, very reasonable to think that every one of these thunderstorms that pops up is going to turn into a Category 1 or Category 3 storm. And yet they never ever do, not for years on end. There was one that went into Mexico, what, 2 years ago? Memory fails me, but this is a protection racket being run probably by the Haarp operators. And the key to illustrating that it is a protection racket, that this is a scam, is the fact that the Japanese, who have much more valuable property to protect, they're only allowed 2,500 of these contracts. Why, heck, that's $50,000. That won't even pay for a single building that's damaged in Japan. Whereas on the Gulf Coast, where there's certain there's not going to be any hurricanes, each one of these customers can pledge $2 million in basically insurance benefits if the contract pays out, which it never will. This is just simply a very elaborate gangster extortion scheme. So you have first event, you have second event, and again, 100,000 contracts is $2 million, and that's per customer. So, and the customers are counted through each brokerage house. So these Haarp operators could have each personally 100 contracts, 100 of these large $2 million contracts, and they'd all pay out in a season. In other words, with no hurricanes, they keep the premium, the 10% down payment from the cities. Okay, I hope that's clear. This is just how options and futures work. Well, specifically, it's how options work. Now, future contracts are slightly different because it's actually a promise to deliver. But let me go back here. This is just crystal clear, and this happens every day. This is not some exception, okay? I see this every day on Goes East, Invisible Light. Go there, and you can see this also. But these are Haarp downbursts. There is no high pressure. This is the point here. The only thing that can do that in nature is a high pressure. And if we look at the jet stream here, I've already looked at that. Let me show you the actual jet stream map. Okay, here's 300 millibar jet stream. Nothing happening aloft. There is no jet stream up there. And if we look at the surface pressure map, let's see, where is that? Nope. Nope. I am so sorry, I can't find it. Well, here's one. Okay, so surface pressure map. It's very busy. There's no high pressure there. That's the point. There's no high pressure. High pressure is the only thing. High pressure just means descending air. Okay, so these bubbles that are being blown apart, these are Haarp downburst. These are Haarp downburst. And now we understand there is a financial mechanism for how these guys can get paid off to prevent these hurricanes from forming. But the whole point here is that this is an extortion protection racket, because the people of the Gulf Coast, they've paid their taxes, they own this technology, they should get this protection without having to pay some gangsters for it. All of us American taxpayers, we are the owners of this technology. And while in my previous videos I had talked about how heroic these guys must be to stop all these hurricanes, now we understand they're not doing anybody any favors. They're getting paid personally, a personal multi-million-dollar payoff to take on the counterparty risk from these coastal cities, when they know there is no risk because they are killing every single thunderstorm that can possibly build up into a tropical depression. Okay, so this is the level of corruption that we now have in this country. And this is a perfect example of why this technology needs to be made public. You know, one last thing is that when these gangsters are blowing up, the heat spot in the ionosphere, it expands both top and bottom, and underneath it presses a column of air downward. But on the top, it's spraying the atmosphere out into space like an aerosol spray can. And then that air is picked up by the solar wind and swept out into space. We lose that. And this vertical mixing is destroying the ozone layer, pushing these geoengineered aerosol particles up into the stratosphere. So we have 10 times increase in deadly ultraviolet. We're spraying our atmosphere out to space, and these criminals running this hardware are making millions of dollars personally every season. Okay, this is why these kind of programs are going on. And you know, I call on the federal authorities, the FBI, the CFTC, the you know, U.S. Attorney General, the NASDAQ, all these people who investigate insider trading and genocide. The ICC needs to investigate this. This is it's an extortion racket at a scale that's never been seen before. And I hope that other people will look into this the CME. It's CME Group, and you can read all about the weather futures products that they offer. And let me say one last thing, is that this market has taken off since about 2007. So right after Katrina, this market was born. And now the daily trading is about $7 million on average of these weather futures contracts and options. So it's a market perfect for these weather warfare controllers, because the way these options work, it's based on a single city. How much rain or snow or heating degree days that a city has, or cooling degree days that a city has in a single month period. So then that's why certain cities get flooded out and other cities are bone dry, because if you can control the precipitation and the temperature for a certain city, you can go ahead and cash in on that foreknowledge. And of course that's insider trading, and it's actually eco-terrorism. So federal authorities, you have been notified of this criminal activity going on now. And the people of America request that you investigate this. This is not cool with us. A tiny, tiny group of people are cashing in. Meanwhile, our planet is being killed, and the American people are being slowly robbed. Okay, please comment, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks.